What's up, y'all?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah. Good morning. I'm eating a cookie.
He eats a cookie every single morning. Like
Yes.
every single morning. So
Yes. Pastor Ong, hey, how you doing?
So the people at Starbucks, they're basically like our friends now. We see them every day, but they have an ongoing joke that they're gonna sneak some vegetables on top of his cookie so that he can have some vegetables with his cookie because he eats the cookie every day. And we're talking about Sundays too. Like every day he gets a cookie. So one day we're talking about maybe pureeing some vegetables, making it look like a glitter or something, or sprinkles, and just sprinkle it on top because this guy doesn't consume enough vegetables. So sorry, I just kicked the camera, but I'm just glad to know that the Starbucks people got my back on trying to get him to have some vegetable intake. So we'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah. Besides that.
Yes.
So today is Coffee Date Monday.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Happy coffee date. Glad you guys joined us this morning. So we usually don't have a topic at all, but last week while we were talking, it came up. And so we're like, we're going to talk about that next week. So we actually remembered that we actually had a subject today. But of course, a subject means nothing. We could go all different kinds of places. That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Like we start up talking about one thing, and then before you know it, we're talking about something completely different.
The random, as if you guys know me at all, John R. Butcher Sr., the R stands for random. And sometimes this whole thing gets very random.
Yeah.
And just let me just give you guys some feedback. I'm not feedback, but some history. The reason why we started this is because of the COVID-19, and I'm saying started the online thing is because of
Coffee date.
the whole COVID-19 thing. My wife and I weren't able to go to our normal places, so what we decided to do was to sit in the backyard
Morning, Marlon.
and just really enjoy each other. And then we were like, you know what? Let's share this because people might want to see our randomness and our craziness and just maybe hear some things that we're going through.
Or it might actually give people something to talk about. You'd be like, did you see Pastor John and Kaya?
They crazy.
They are a hot mess. Did you
Yes.
see what they were talking about? They were telling people all their business. So
Yeah, because
Hey.
I have an issue of doing that. I don't know.
he likes telling people all our business.
I'm a sieve.
However, I do feel like reality TV is just in right now. I feel like what we're seeing in society right now and just through social media, it's like we have a reality TV culture right now. Like people create reality TV. Just grab your phone, go out into the streets, and like you've got great reality TV content. So I feel like in this reality TV culture, I'd rather watch our show any day of the week. Like
Yeah, because we're not making anything up.
we're not making nothing up, nothing staged.
Life is crazy enough as itself, especially being pastors.
Yeah, but I mean, at least when people watch our crazy reality show, at least God's getting the glory out of it. Like, hopefully, like somebody's getting helped or something like that. So yeah. How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, what's up, Kev, Jasmine?
Yeah.
All you guys.
He's talking about transparency. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And not transparent because I'm so light-skinned.
He is very light-skinned. I was actually sitting here thinking that as we were sitting here, I was like, he's pretty...
I got darker yesterday, believe it or not. So some of you guys are looking at me like, yeah, he's light-skinned. I'm actually a couple shades darker.
You're tanned today?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it'll be weird if, like, for Father's Day, I get him, like, a tanning salon.
A tanning
certificate.
session?
Yeah, like, you go get
And we're not in phase 4 of the release of COVID
Oh, you
stuff.
can't
So
do tanning.
tanning salons aren't open right now.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd really do it anyway, but
Yeah.
I know.
It's okay though, because you know what? Especially during these times, you guys listen to me when I say this, okay? I don't want to get too super serious, but the benefit right now of me being light-skinned is that I'm racially ambiguous.
Yeah, no one knows.
So no one really knows what I am. The lips and the nose gives it away sometimes, but people really don't know what I am.
Most of the time.
Right. So it allows me to go across color barriers and lines to be able to have certain conversations. So, you know, it's been a blessing for me to be able to do that.
Yeah. Marlon says that you have a phase 2 tan. That's hilarious.
Phase 2 tan, yes, sir.
That's hilarious. Because phase 2, I think, yeah, I don't know what was open at phase 2, but that's hilarious.
Right. Yeah. So, you guys, as you know, today we're talking about couples in ministry. And we decided, since it's couples in ministry, what better thing to do than be at the church?
Yeah.
So we're in the office. So what you see behind us now, this is the office. That right there is Pastor Raquel Johnson's desk. I just want to make this clear.
Staff office.
It's the staff office, but this is her desk, and I'm trying to make it clear that we're not sitting there.
Yeah, she doesn't like when
She
people
doesn't
say
like
her
when we
desk.
sit there because people mess with their stuff.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there. You guys are witnesses that we are not sitting at her desk, okay? So
Yeah.
just put that out there.
Because she's probably watching. She's like, wait, they better not be sitting in my desk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna just start off. I got something up here on my screen. Okay, there, cool. So I want to just talk about couples in ministry, and a lot of people see pastors, senior pastors, husbands and wives going at this. Now, this is gonna take a lot of turns, you guys. So just put on your
I think everybody
seatbelt.
that watches us is used to it being pretty twisty.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to understand the whole fact is I think we're going to bring up some things that people don't realize that happens in ministry. But listen, just because we're pastors and this happens in ministry, the principles are also the same in life in general.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Even like with couples that go into business together,
couples in business together,
like
just
Stan and Paula. Paula says you're the safe black guy, by the way.
I am.
How do you
I
feel
am.
about being a safe black guy? Do you feel anything when people say that you're the safe black guy? Like, does that?
Well, here's the thing. I actually came up with that for myself.
Oh, okay.
When I told my white friends I'm a safe black guy. So and what does that mean? So listen, because some of you guys may not like that, but I'm just going to share with you. Reason why I've always been the safe black guy is because I grew up here in Fairfield, Suisun. Grew up right here in Suisun. Been here since '72. So being here, I've grown up around everybody. Philip, my godmom is Filipina. I've grown up around Mexicans. I've grown up around whites. You name it, all kinds of Asians. And it was the diversity even didn't just go with ethnicity. It also went with gosh, it just dropped out of my head. Finances. People. We had rich people I hung around with. Economic diversity. So without a full background, but I often had to be the guy that told my white friends or Asian friends that that's not the cool thing to say around other guys. Because people that have moved to Suisun may have moved from Richmond, from Oakland, predominantly black neighborhoods.
Ohio.
They're used to being around just black people. And when you would say something like that, you're going to offend other people. Now, you might be able to say that around some other black people that you grew up with and they know you don't mean anything by it. But I was always the guy, that bridge, to be able to say, hey, psst, come here. Hey.
Not cool.
Hey, buddy, don't say that.
Not cool.
You're going to get punched in the nose.
Yeah.
So I was always the safe black guy. So that's where that all came from. Been that way all my life. And I don't think it's just because I'm light skinned. I just think it's because of how I was brought up, how I was raised. And just to be a peacemaker. I've always been a peacemaker. So, yeah, safe black guy.
Cool.
Anyway, back to what we were talking about.
Yes. So we're talking about couples in ministry. I'll never forget our wedding. Like, I feel like the day after our wedding said a lot, and it was a huge nod to how the rest of our life together was going to be.
Uh-oh.
So let me tell you about this guy, okay?
Uh-oh.
So one of the things that really attracted me to John, and we've talked about this before in our previous online coffee dates, but one of the things that really attracted me to him was his conviction and his strong commitment and loyalty to God and to the house of God. Like, I found it extremely attractive. Like, because one of the things that I felt like I saw more often, just maybe it was just the men that I was around, but I saw people who put on this fake facade, like, I'm spiritual, and it's like, okay, saying that you're spiritual can go a lot of different ways, you guys, like, a lot of different ways. Like, devil worshipers are spiritual.
That's true.
So I'm like, I'm about Jesus, so I'm not sure what exactly that is. So anyway, a lot of the people that I was around was more of like, they weren't really firm with the God and the house of God and the things of God and the people of God. Because one of the things about me, like if you love me, if you really care about me, or if you want to win my heart, you'll love the things that I love, and that's my kids. That's my husband. You love and respect my kids and my husband, dude. You've got my heart, because they're reflections of what my heart beats for the most, you know? And so it's the same reflection with God. Like if you love God, like you'll love his people, you'll love his house, you'll love the things that he's doing. You'll dive into that. Why? Because it shows that you love him. When my husband, he had 2 kids from a previous relationship when we got together, and the one thing that I had to search in my heart was like, well, am I ready to be a stepmom? You know. But the more my love grew for him, it's like the more my love grew for his boys. And so it was just an instant like default setting in me, where it's like I love them. Why? Because they're extensions of who John is. And so it's the same for the house of God. So anyway, all the men that I was around, sorry you guys, I already finished my coffee, by the way.
No, that's the answer. I was wondering what is going on.
We're at the beginning of this thing.
Did you even see my face the whole time? I did good, you guys, because I was like, where is she going? Where is she going?
Story time, guys, story time. So the guys that I was around, they weren't about the Jesus life. They just weren't. They were about themselves and about what the Lord could add to them about what they were already doing. But was completely not who he was. He was all about, what in my life can I give up for God? Like, what greater sacrifice can I lay on the altar for him? And I had never met a man that was really like that in front of people and behind closed doors.
After we got married.
Yeah.
You were telling the story.
I know, but I'm not done yet.
Oh.
So anyway, knowing that about him, I had to make that decision on whether I wanted my life to reflect that as well. Because being connected to somebody like him, it's like literally like, it's all Jesus all the time. Like that's who his life was. And so I knew marrying a man of God like him, like it was like, you're going to be about that Jesus life. So it has to be real. So, and I knew that, and I was all for it. But anyway, you guys, listen, let me tell you, we got married on a Saturday. Reception, partied all night long, spend the night at the hotel where the reception is. The next morning, I need you guys to hear me on this. The next morning, early, I'm pretty sure we got up about 6 to open up the doors of the church. We didn't just attend church, you guys. I need y'all to hear me on this. We didn't just attend church the next day. He was the guy that opened up the doors, and he was not the pastor. He was not the pastor, you guys. He was just a servant in God's house. But he was the guy that opened up the door, and anybody else could have totally did it. And I'm sure they all offered, hey, because they called him Uncle John at the time. Hey, Uncle John, do you want me to cover for you and open up the doors for church and so all the servants can go in and do whatever His answer was no, I'm going to be there. He was the first one there. So because he's the first one there, guess who? Guess what? His new wife is now the first one there. Day after my wedding, you guys. So I already knew this was about that. That was a reflection of what our life and our ride together in this journey was going to look like. It was like, it's all for Jesus or nothing.
All for Jesus. Shout out.
All for Jesus.
Shout out
all
to all
the
for
time.
Jesus.
But so knowing that. When things first started, it was almost like you kind of knew that John had that calling on his life, you know, to be a pastor and to be, for sure, a leader in God's house. He was already a leader, but you kind of felt that there was like, this guy is like the real deal. And so I kind of figured that's probably the direction his life was going to take. But my position on that at first, initially at the beginning was, I'm going to make sure you're fed. I'm going to make sure your clothes are ironed. I'm going to make sure I'll keep track of your calendar.
She was going to be the helpmate.
Yeah.
She was going to be the proverbial wife that, I hate to say it, but barefoot, at the house, in the kitchen.
You know what? I was cool with it too. I wanted to do that. I was literally like, because I came from corporate world, working in an investment firm, high corporate high level, high stress level.
Great pay.
Great pay. We lived our best life.
We was living our best life.
But it was a huge contrast from what I was doing before we got married. So I was excited about, I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a homemaker. I wanted to make our house beautiful. I wanted to, be a great wife. So I was really excited about stepping into that and learning and seeing what that was.
And I think it's important for our story that you understand that Kaya came from the corporate world.
Yeah, corporate.
Super corporate.
Yeah.
We're talking about she was taking trips all over the world. She was in New York at the stock exchange. She was doing all this stuff. She's making six figures as a young lady.
And then not even closing. Bonuses were ridiculous.
Yeah.
Literally, we can live for a year off the bonuses.
Off of bonuses. It was crazy. So you need to understand that because when God put us together, there was a role that God was trying to put together that goes way past stereotypes and traditions.
Yeah.
And being married, sometimes we have these ideas of how the marriage should be, and we don't allow God to form the marriage the way that He intends it to be. And you guys were like, well, God intends. You look in the Bible, and it talks about what, if you really look in the Bible, it tells what a wife should do and how a husband should love the wife and how the wife should love. And then earlier in the Psalms and the Proverbs, it talks about what a woman does, but it really never tells the role specifically of what a wife does. Why? Because I truly believe that each wife's role in her husband's life is going to be different than somebody else's based upon the person that God created her to be.
The gifts, the callings, the anointings,
and everybody has gifts. God gives them out the way He sees fit.
Right.
And if you listen to God when you get married,
instead of trying to
duplicate, you're going to be a piece of the puzzle that fits in His life and vice versa.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we get two people that are attracted to things that are so much outside that we forget about what God has placed inside. And then there's no matching. And then you have conflict in the marriage because you might have two people that are super strong in the same area. And because they're super strong in the same area, they start to bump heads. Now you got two gifts that are conflicting. And then I don't let me even start putting in that big word, that 3-letter word called ego. Then ego gets into play.
Spirit of competition.
And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But when Kai and I stepped into this, I think the point one to understand is she knew what she was getting into.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I was for it.
Marrying into ministry, she knew, and I told her from the beginning, look, my heart belongs to God. I'm going to be in the ministry. You need to know what that means. And at the time, she was like, oh, yeah, I'm down. I'm for it. Everything else like that. But she didn't really understand the commitment that I was committed to in Christ. The man that discipled me, Pastor Michael Harry, showed me exactly how, look, this is what you do. This is what it looks like to give God your all. So when I picked that up, that's what I did. I was giving God everything I had, every moment, every hour. But now, mind you, there was a lack of wisdom behind a lot of it, which I got later. But Kai knew at the time, this is what he's going to do. I'm aboard. I'm for it. I signed up on the dotted line. This is it. There's no going back, and we're all in. So at that point, after the marriage, that's what we did. We were all about ministry. We were moving and grooving and everything else like that. And to fast forward a little bit, when it came time for us personally, when we started the ministry, it was pretty taxing. I mean, we had the two boys, two young children, one specifically really young.
Yeah, like days old.
Yeah, so she was just born, and that was a big strain. And then she got sick, and while she's sick, we're in the first year of our ministry. My daughter gets sick. She's in the hospital, close to death. But yet, I'm like, I still got to serve God. I can't stop. And I never thought about what that might do to my wife emotionally, how that might hurt her because she's at the hospital and I had to run from Oakland at Children's Hospital to come to do service on Sunday and then turn around and go back and then Tuesday come back and do service on Tuesday. And I was doing these different things and maintaining a household and working at the same time. And I was, at the time, what I didn't realize, I was neglecting what God had put first in my life.
Yeah. And it took us a while to figure out that the balance was a little off. But it wasn't anything that was intentional, for sure.
No.
It was just basically just having to grow in wisdom as a married couple and grow in wisdom in ministry. And I feel like it's really important that everybody knows that there has to be a period of grace where everybody's allotted that time to grow in that grace of being a husband, learning into growing grace of being a wife, and then also growing in grace of the balance that needs to come between ministry and family, because it's a fine line. Because sometimes we can use our families as an excuse to step away from what we're supposed to be doing in ministry and serving God. But then we can also do that the opposite side. We can use ministry as an excuse to step away from doing the things that we should be doing in our families. So it's all about finding that balance, and it takes a period of grace, and we have to allot each other till we figure that out, especially with young families. Because one of the things I didn't know is I didn't know that I was going to grow such a big heart for ministry. Like, it didn't happen right away, but it happened as we went, as we kept showing up, as we kept doing things in faith. It was like, dude, this is my heart. And I had not a clue that was in there. But the Bible talks about that God will give you the desires of your heart. And sometimes he's wanting to give you some things that you didn't even know you wanted. I had not a clue that I would be able to be a communicator in the gospel. Like, to me, when we first started, me getting up on a pulpit to preach sounded absolutely horrifying. I would comb the internet looking for women preachers to come to our church to preach to our women, because I'm like, the women at the building, they need a woman to come and talk for Mother's Day, or they need somebody to come and say something about moms, or just about being women, or like, who can I get to do that? And at the beginning of our ministry, that was like one of the taxing things that I would do constantly. Like, who can I get to come preach to the ladies? Because I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll never forget. My husband kept saying, yes, you can. And I'm like, I can't. I was horrified of doing it. And now it's literally like, I had not a clue that not only could I do it, because I can do it in faith, I do it by faith every single time, but I had not a clue that the Lord would meet me and help me every single time. Like, I kid you guys not, I am not over exaggerating. Every single time I go up to the pulpit with my notes, the Lord literally meets me there. And at the end of the message, I'm like, dude, I don't even know. Half of that was not in my notes, but it's because God was like, you showed up in faith, I'm going to show up. And because the thing is that if he doesn't show up, it's just a speech, you guys. It's just a speech. It's a lecture. And I don't know if anybody's lives and hearts been changed at college lectures. Mine haven't. But it's not until the Lord shows up that hearts and lives are changed. And he does it every time when we first show up in faith. You know?
Well, Tanya, I agree with you. The funny part about that is I've told my wife countless times, you know, you get up and just get up and trust God. You have your notes, you have them in front of you, and what people don't believe is she wasn't a preacher, but she's definitely a preacher now. She's a better preacher than me. And you see that look?
I don't know about all that.
She is a better preacher than I am.
He's an amazing teacher.
I am a teacher.
Amazing teacher.
I have the gift of teaching.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that, it's not that I'm so deep and so profound. God has given me a grace to be able to explain things so people can grab it and grasp it.
Plainly.
So it's plainly. I'm not super deep or anything like that. I can get super deep, but I can explain things where people can understand it. But my wife, she's so passionate and she's so sincere, and God uses that. So when she preaches from a place of conviction, and people feel her, because she doesn't preach from a place of a pompous or high attitude or anything like that. My wife is a very humble lady, very humble woman, and I think all that comes out when she preaches. Yeah. Personally, I think she's literally on my top 3 best preachers, women preachers ever. And I mean ever. I've heard.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
I feel like whatever I've grown in ministry is because my husband affirmed me and he spoke those things into me. It's almost like the Lord used him to agree with the Lord to speak it out to me practically. Because I feel like all of us, especially in ministry, the Lord is telling us things. He's nudging us in certain directions, but it's when the confirmation comes in the natural. And I feel like the Lord has used my husband so many times, like so many times, to just come in and agree with what he's already been saying in me. And so I feel like whatever I've grown in ministry is because my husband came and he nudged me and he coached me, and he was my pastor. He was my leader to remind me that, yes, I can do those things. And I feel like in couples that are in ministry, when there's a spirit of competition, when there's a lot of insecurity because you're already battling some stuff on the inside and you're insecure about some stuff, it's going to be hard to give your spouse that confirmation and the affirmation that they need to better the team and to do what you guys are both called to do in ministry.
We need to stay right there.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's where we need to go.
Let's talk about this and the spirit of competition. And you don't even realize it. I'm just gonna speak from a man's point of view. And for some of you men out there, I really hope you listen. And, this Sunday I said this. I said, we always pray, God, search our hearts. And if there's anything in it that's not like you, remove it. Well, God's not going to remove it. He'll make you aware of it. And when you're aware of it, it's up to you to renew your mind that you may prove that which is the good, the acceptable, and the perfect will of God. It's scripture.
Yeah.
So hopefully with this, whoever's watching, you'll think about this. So if you're in business or in ministry or you're just married, there are going to be things that your wife will do a whole lot better than you. Okay?
And vice versa.
And vice versa. But I'm just talking to men right now. Okay? So understand something, especially ministry. We live in a time, especially biblically, as the man is supposed to be the king, the priest, the prophet. We're supposed to be the head, and we're so caught up in church that men are the ones, the pastor is the one that should be able to do everything. I should be able to help. If there's a lead song, I should be able to sing it. If there's decisions to be made, I need to be the one making it. If there's ideas that need to come up, I'm the one that comes up with the ideas and creative ideas. If there's problems, I need to solve them because I am the pastor. It's an I thing, and it doesn't work. But then all of a sudden, when you have a wife that you activated just to kind of help you out, and you see that she's moving and grooving, like, dude, what my wife actually made this better. And for instance, let me help you out with this, is for us personally, we grew to a ceiling and we got there and we were doing ministry great. We were doing ministry really good. But
for that level.
But that's what I'm saying. We hit the ceiling. We were doing ministry good. And then all of a sudden it was like, dude, how are we going to get past this ceiling? And we have very close friends, Dr. John Harris. We were talking to him and, I noticed something as I was talking to him. I noticed that there were some kind of traits and gifts that as he was explaining to me, I was like, dude, you kind of sound like my wife talking to me. And I was like, man. And do you know, Kai was telling me the whole time, she goes, John, I believe I could be an executive pastor. And I was like, no, I don't want you making those decisions.
I don't think I used the term executive pastor. I just kept saying, I feel like I could do a lot to help our church grow.
Right. That's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Pastor John, or Dr. John, and he basically was breaking things down about it. And he looked at me and he said this is very important. He says, because one, your wife doesn't want to look like she's usurping your authority. Your wife is a driver. That's part of her personality.
Yeah,
Remember the corporate world where she came from. You can't be timid. You got to be upfront about everything. You got to hit things in the face. That is Pastor Kaya. So that's not Pastor John, okay? I'm the diplomat and she's up in front in your face. It's all about, conflict isn't bad, you guys.
Yeah.
This is what she does.
Yeah.
So, mind you, thanks, babe, because that is so distracting. So,
But you put non-disturbed.
it is, but for some reason it doesn't work. Okay, back to what I'm talking about. So, because she's like that, he said this is very important. He goes, because your wife doesn't want to look like she's usurping authority. Because we made the decision to make her the executive pastor. What does the executive pastor do? They execute systems to make sure that the system itself, the corporation, the body is running correctly.
Yeah, and they execute the vision of the pastor.
And they execute the vision of the pastor. So I was like, man, yeah, that's what I need. Let's activate my wife. We got her some training. She did a few things, and we put some stuff in place. My wife organized. So all of a sudden, I started realizing, God, you gave all these gifts. And I looked at one of the gifts in the Bible, and it says this, the gift of administration. Whoa, how about that, you guys? People think being administrative is something natural. It's a gift of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit has gifted my wife administration. She came in here and organized things. Look, she was my wife the whole time, but I never gave her the permission. Why didn't I give her the permission? Because I wanted to hold on to everything. Because when I hold on to everything, I find my identity in being in charge. I find my identity in running the show. That's where I find my identity. That's where my manhood comes in. That's where my ego kicks in and keeps me going. But so when I released her to do that, we sat in front of our leadership, in front of the church. I made it clear, look, if you guys have any decisions or you need a decision on something, you want to ask questions about systems, about how things are going, you can go to Pastor Kai. She's now our executive pastor. She's the one that's going to be able to help you out. And at the time, it sounded real good. Let's fast forward. Months later, I started feeling some kind of way. Can I be transparent? Yeah. Okay. I start feeling some kind of way, and it caused us to have difficulty, not just in ministry, but we were taking it home with us. And I'm sharing this with you because maybe some of you ladies might have this issue with your husband, or husbands, you might be seeing like, dude, I'm trying to figure out, because me and my wife work together, and you know, this is happening. But in ministry, this is what happened with me. And I know we were taking our issues home, and I was taking the issue home, and we were having arguments. So every time she would do something, I would always kind of jump at her, snap at her about things. And
push back for sure.
Yeah, definitely snap. You know, you push a dog and she would just say something, and I'd snap at her, try to bite her hand. So all that stuff was going on in our life, and it all had to do with me, because all of a sudden, because I found my identity in being in control, I started thinking that I was losing that, and then now my identity goes down. I'm having an identity crisis, and then I'm feeling some kind of way on the inside when all she was doing was making the team look better. All she was doing was helping out what God had called us both to do, because the two are one. When my wife shines, I shine. But I forgot all of that because of my ego. And it wasn't until I actually went before the Lord and started praying and asking him to reveal in my heart what it is. And he began to show me and help uncover these things. And I had to just start dealing with it, because my wife is basically, she's me. She's the strong points where I'm weak at. Go ahead and say something, babe, because I hear you breathing.
And I just feel that I have to breathe or I will die.
But you don't huff and puff. No, that's a good one.
I wasn't huffing and puffing. No, I just feel like every couple brings balance. Yeah, so I definitely agree with you on that. Where I'm not, like, just like he said, he's more diplomatic. I'm not very good in that area at all. Like when it comes to like, oh, it's okay. Well, let's talk about this, or hey, how's your dog doing? Did he switch to kibbles, or is he still on Alpo? Like, dude, I fail at that every single time. When we start a meeting or whatever, I'm just like, here's our points. This is where we need to get done. Let's focus on this today. But the balance is needed when he comes in and he starts off the meeting like, how's your dog? How's your grandma? What's her name again? Right. Like he brings in that balance, because I'm not good in that area, and honestly, all of it is needed. It's all needed. But when there is insecurity in the relationship, then the couples aren't able to function well together in ministry. One of the things that kills lots of marriages is when there's not clear vision and plans on what you guys are called to do together. Because the thing is that if he had never opened up about some of his feelings about me doing this new role of being an executive pastor and putting things in place and stuff like that, things like that can allow the joy and just the the strength to seep out of marriages and seep out of relationships. And that's how ministry can kill marriages, when things like that go unnoticed and untouched or unresolved. So I think that balance is important, just like you said, and being able to respect and acknowledge and affirm and encourage each other in their gifts, because we're all gifted and we're strong in different areas for a reason. But that's why we're together, right?
For sure. I really believe that. I believe that you're a lot stronger in areas that I'm not strong in. And I think what you said the other day, we have meetings and Pastor Kaya runs the meetings, and I sit in there and I sit in there and she's running and I just listen and she goes about it. And I noticed my strengths one day, and she said it best. It's like, she goes, administratively, I got that gift and everything else. She goes, but you know what? You know how to bring in the spirituality and the encouragement part. She goes, I could sit down and really hit people about them, what they're doing and what they're not doing.
Here's the targets,
and
here's the goals,
that. And she goes, and then you bring everything I said into a biblical perspective. And then you, not only do you bring it into a biblical perspective, but then you also throw a lot of grace on there. So it's like, here's the instructions, here's the hard thing, and then I come behind that with what's spiritual, what God is saying to us, what God is talking to us about, and the two come together, and they becomes one. So we work as a team.
And it's so needed. And I feel like I've been to churches where one of the gifts are missing. Like, for instance, like they're really heavy in the prophetic, but there's no pastoral anointing. So everybody's running around prophesying to everybody, and there's no order. I've been to places where it's like super, like, for instance, like the pastors or everybody's focused on like my kind of gift, where they're like executive, hitting targets, very strategic, but there's no love, there's no encouragement, there's no joy. It's all about driving, meeting the goals and stuff like that. So all the gifts are really needed. And one of the things I shared with John one day, I said, you're like a, what's the name of those guys? Conductor that comes together with your stick, and he taps the little stand, and the people in the administrative area, they tune up, and then the people in the prophetic area, they tune up, and everybody's tuning up because everybody has different gifts, right? But it's the senior pastor, it's the pastor that brings us all together and goes, and he points to the different sections like, okay, this is your point. Really come out strong. Go. Now it's time for you to quiet down. Now it's time for the administrative people to come up. Okay, now quiet down. All right, prophets, where are you? Come up. Intercessors, where are you? Come on. Worship leader, where are you? Come on. Go. This is your time. Go. Lead us. Go. And then he knows when to quiet us all down for him to come and bring it all together. And there's been so many difficult meetings that we've been in difficult times. Like even now, the state that our nation is in right now, like there's been countless times within the last couple of weeks that he's come and spoken, whether in a meeting or just on Sundays, where it's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, is exactly what we needed to hear. And it couldn't come from me. It wouldn't have come from me. It only would have come from him. And it's so important what he does. But when we're so busy comparing and looking at other people's gifts, then it distracts us from being strong when it's our time to come up. It's your time. You really need to come up strong and confident and lead God's people right now. But when you're like, oh man, look at the trombones. The trombones are just really doing it right now. Man, why can't I be like the clarinets? Man, when it's like, come on, drums, you missed your solo. You missed your time. And because of that, the whole entire song suffered. Like the whole song stopped. The whole song suffered. The conductor's bewildered. Like, where were you? Like, everybody's like, what's going on with this song? What's going on with God's church? What's happening? Why isn't there unity? Why isn't people speaking up when it's their time to speak up? Why are people silent? Or why are people speaking loud over everybody else and thinking, no, we just need to prophesy. That's all we need to do. No, we need to learn how to come up when it's our time to come up, and we need to learn how to silence down when it's our time to silence down. But we need the anointing of a pastor that has a pastoral anointing to help us navigate those times to bring all the gifts together, because they're all important.
Speaking of pastor, hello, Pastor Tom. Good to see you, man. Miss you. That's a pastor we met in Israel. Remember Pastor Tom? Anyway, I just wanted to say hi to him. He said hello. But what Pastor Kai is saying is what Paul basically says when he says we're a body fitly joined together, and each part supplies to the other part. And it's a great analogy, but when you bring that into a marriage, not just in the church, it's the same thing. God will give gifts how he wants to give them and the way he wants to. Look, I don't have the gift to sing. I can worship. Praise God. I can make a joyful noise, but it's only to the Lord's ears.
Yeah.
And some of us were like, man, I really wish I could sing. We so focused on taking singing lessons and stuff like that, when God really wants you to be strong in the areas that he's made you strong in.
Yeah.
So when you look in your marriage, you really should be able to look into the marriage and understand, look, my wife does this really well. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let her do that really well. Traditional roles, I understand it, and don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, men, if you can't handle money and your wife can, let her handle the money. Just let her do it. Wives, if you can't cook and your husband can, let him cook. At the end of the day, tradition, Paul even talked about, we have no such traditions here at this church. And I know it doesn't relate to what I'm saying, but the principle does. You bet if you take, traditions can ruin relationships. They can ruin relationships.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, talking about bringing traditions from our home, my home where my mom and dad raised me, into our home, or him doing the same thing. It's like, no, that doesn't fit here. Why? Because we're supposed to leave and cleave and create our own traditions or systems or whatever for our home, not taking on, everything that was in our mom and our dad's house.
Yes, definitely. And I know that personally, now you guys understand, we're still growing in it, in the balance that God has given us. And all I can think of is, people, you go to a circus or you go somewhere, a guy will get a board, long flat board, and they'll put a circle right in the middle of it. And he'll stand on the board, and instead of it looking like a teeter-totter, he'll balance it out. So it'll be like this, but the ball's underneath it. And you could stay like that for a long time, and he'll be going back and forth, and he keeps it balanced. But, eventually, at some point in time, one side gets tired, and then you'll start leaning one way, and then it's out of balance. And I think we need to learn how to recognize when we start getting out of balance and make adjustments.
Yeah.
Because when that happens, you have to make adjustments on the board, which means you need to go either to the left a little bit or to the right. That's called compromise. Because sometimes, even though you may not agree, you have to compromise to get back into balance. So, with Kai and I, we do a lot of that. Sometimes, when we start getting out of balance, we can tell because the relationship begins to suffer. And when our relationship suffers, our ministry suffers. And when our ministry suffers, our ministering suffers. So it is a landslide.
Yeah.
So in order to get our ministry right, we have to make sure that this is right first. And when this is right, then things begin to start flowing from this marriage. Because listen, watch this. I'm not married to the ministry. I'm married to my wife. And we're both together as one married to the ministry.
As one.
As one.
Yeah.
Now, one can't be married to the ministry and the other one not.
Right.
So you can't, I'm seriously, I look and I'm trying to figure out how people actually make it, pastors, whether it's a female pastor or male pastor, how they can actually make it without the support of their wife or their husband. It seems crazy to me.
The balance seems off.
It seems really off, and I could be honest with you, I could tell when things are like that, because it's so heavy one-sided. I also love the way you said when, there's 5 gifts, and I think God created 5 gifts in the church because 5 is the number of grace, and when all 5 is working together, you have grace overflowing in the church. But when you don't have all 5 working together, things are out of order. God's given the pastor to lead, to guide, to teach, and to bring order. And when these things are missing, then it's out of order. And a hand is what grabs people. And the church should be able to grab people when you have those gifts, to be able to grab them, to hold them, to hug them. But when one's out of order, you're walking around and you got the prophets and the teachers over here, and you got the pastors and whoever else over here, and things ain't working. You're running around looking like Spock. You need to be able to reach that hand out and grab people. The evangelists are running over here doing what they want to do, and then you got the prophets over here prophesying. It needs to work together.
That's a really good analogy. And just speaking, going back to about couples who are both not all in, I feel like we need to speak to that a little bit, because I feel like the only way that we've been able to make it in ministry and together is because we both decided to be all in. I really feel like a step back and a real conversation needs to happen if one is not all in. Like, if a husband feels called to pastor and lead a church or plant a church, and then the wife doesn't, maybe she was more of like how I was at the beginning, of like, I'll just make sure you're fed, but that's just kind of your thing. It's not mine. I'll come and show up every once in a while. I really feel like a step back and a real conversation needs to happen at that point, because you can't show up with half of yourself. Like, I feel like a lot of pastors show up with half of themselves because their wife isn't all in, or because the wife is doing something and their husband's not all in. Like, you need to show up. In order to be your full self, you can't be divided. And if half of you is at home and half of you is here at the church, why? Because a man and a woman, they become one. And so both of you are needed to be able to show up, to be your full self and do what it is you're called to do. So I really would challenge someone that feels like they're called to plant a church or lead a ministry, and their spouse is not all in. Like, here at the building, all of our leaders, it's a couple's commitment. Like, when our leaders say yes to leadership, it's the husband and the wife. Like, we like to clear it through the husband and the wife, because one of the things that's going to happen is if it's just the wife, then that's time that she's taking away from her husband. We're not trying to destroy anybody's marriages. What we do in ministry should be something that we do together. Like, it should be something that we do and we offer to the Lord together. The Lord's not here to compete with your husband. You know, it shouldn't be like that. So, yeah, I would always challenge somebody to go back and really have that hard conversation with their spouse on figuring out if that's something that they can proceed with or not.
I'm sitting here thinking, because, you know, some people got married and you're already married, and the person's like, you know what, I didn't know it was this much, and I'm just cool being at home and you doing whatever.
That's heartbreaking,
and,
honestly.
You know, so basically this, watch how this happens. And listen, I'm just sharing with you from our experience. And this, it comes down to this. So you got a husband that really wants ministry, that really wants to move forward in ministry, and he's putting his all into it. You have a wife that's like, you just go ahead and do that. I'll take care of you. And you go, my ministry is taking care of you. Well, first of all, taking care of your husband is not your ministry. It's your obligation. There's a big difference. You're obligated. God didn't say this is your ministry. This is what you do as a wife.
Yeah.
Is you take care of your husband as you take care of your own body. So that's your obligation. Your ministry is to be in ministry with your husband. So if you're not in there with your husband, or vice versa, husbands with wife, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to chill out and do whatever, you know what? Then you go, well, let's have this talk. Well, divorce ain't the option. There is no, the D word ain't in there.
Never.
But I'm going to tell you what is the option is, you know what? If we can't do ministry together, then I'm just stepping back from ministry. And why? Because you're doing more danger and hurt to people that you're ministering to, because they're looking at you going, well, if you're trying to give me instruction, how are you, what kind of instruction are you following? Because I don't even see you having any support. And this is what happens. It happens in churches across America, everywhere. And you know, and this is what you guys don't understand. That's why Paul was basically saying it's better that you stay single. Because a man doesn't care for his wife, and a wife, you know, he doesn't have to worry about his wife, and a wife doesn't have to worry about pleasing her husband. That better, they both can serve the Lord. They can commit themselves. But look, if you can come together and commit, then the two is one, and then you could serve God.
You guys are both,
but if you guys are bumping heads about serving and sacrificing, man,
but that's why, like, we're really big on marriage. Like, we're always talking about, we're huge advocates on marriage, because marriage is the foundation that you build everything on top of. Like, and not only that, but marriage is the reflection that the Lord has with us, like the commitment he has with the church. And so it's like, if we can get this marriage right, like literally, like this is how John and I feel. If we can get this marriage right, if we can be on one accord with each other, if we can be united, if we can be one, then we can learn how to be one with not just God's church, but we can be effective in our family with our kids. Like, a family with kids is built upon a marriage. A business is built upon a healthy marriage. A ministry is built upon it. Everything is built upon first the marriage. Or if you're going to just be single, is built upon your marriage with Christ. right? So if we can get that right, then everything else can flow out of us healthy. But if our marriage is unhealthy, you guys, whether we put on a fake smile or not, because honestly, I'm kind of good at this fake smiling because
She's just learned that.
yeah, I've just learned that because like I'm not a big smiler. I'm not a big smiler. My resting face is like, yeah.
Yeah, she got the resting meme.
That's my resting face, right?
She got the resting meme.
So I've been working on the smiling so that I won't scare anyone and I won't intimidate anybody. I'm not trying to scare anybody here. Everything's fine. But we can do that. We can show up with our fake smiles, you guys. But if our marriage is hurting, the ministry, it's only a matter of time before everything else crumbles. Your relationship with the kids, like the harmony in the house, that's going to crumble. Ministry at church is going to crumble. Your business, everything is going to suffer because it's not upon a good foundation with your marriage. And so that's why we talk all the time about marriage. It's like, please think 4 times, 5 times, 6 times about the person you're going to marry because it's a big deal. It's a lifelong commitment, you guys. It's lifelong. And we can do more with you now before you get married, before you make that decision, before you say yes with that person. We can do more with you now than we can then. Because a lot of times people are like, well, he's doing this, well, she's doing that. And we're like, well, what do you want us to do? Y'all married. Like, y'all need to figure it out. Like, that's our answer every time. A lot of times I feel like people are waiting for us to give them the stamp of approval to get a divorce. And it's not coming, you guys.
Ain't gonna happen.
Please stop looking for us to give you a stamp of approval
for
a divorce. Like, that's not who we are. We're people of Christ. We're people of the covenant. We stand for God's covenants. We stand for God, what God says.
You better work it out.
You gotta work it out. And it makes more hard work for us, you guys, when you're constantly like beating on our door, like, help us, he's acting crazy, or she's not doing this, or she's not. We're like, oh my gosh, where were you for the coffee date Mondays? Where were you before you got married? Where were you guys? Why weren't you guys sitting in front of us so that we can help you in the beginning, before that?
Told you about Broke Bob.
Broke Bob and Broke Betty.
Broke Bob and Broke Betty.
Like, please, stay away from them. Please, get you somebody that's spiritually rich. Nobody that's spiritually bankrupt. We don't know what to tell you what to do with spiritually bankrupt people. They're constantly spending all your strength, spending all your joy, spending all your passions.
Spending all your time.
Just spending all your time. Yeah. So couples in ministry.
Rona.
Hashtag no Rona. We got to do that every time. Every time somebody coughs, you got to go hashtag no Rona. So couples in ministry, I think is a beautiful thing. And I feel like at the Building Christian Fellowship, we have some beautiful couples that are literally committed to each other and committed to ministry together. And we love when couples come together to leadership meetings. We love when couples come together just like to anything, because it's like now they're fully showing up as their full self. Like, you get people that show up or that are there and their spouse isn't down with it. It's like, it's almost like, oh man, you're operating at half strength. I wonder what you would be like at full strength. Like, almost like we'd rather you go home and pray about, getting united in your marriage and then come back and offer to the Lord something that's even greater and richer. But it's just a hard thing.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, people, is your wife or your husband, okay, I'm always, I'm the man, so I'm to say wife, but each of you aren't going to have the same gifts. Remember that. Mm-hmm. So you might be a great usher, and your wife is a great teacher. Mm-hmm. So you guys dedicate yourselves to the ministry.
Yeah, together. Though.
Together. Mm-hmm. But it's together you guys are doing it. Mm-hmm. And what's good is that communication alleviates all confusion. Mm-hmm. So the people, now this is just to help you out. If you're serving at your church, and you guys are serving in 2 different ministries, you need to tell your ministry heads, hey, my wife and I are serving on these days together, because it's important that we serve, but it's important that we also get soaked in the Word together to sit together.
Yeah, we love that.
I love to see people. We have people here that serve every Sunday.
Yeah, and we have to tell them.
I got to sit them down. I'm like, you're not serving this Sunday. Where's your wife or where's your husband?
We want to see you
sit down with them and get and just soak in this Word. Yeah, enjoy church together.
Yeah, that's important.
I hate seeing you guys all see one here and the other one's running around serving. No, that's not what church is about.
Yeah.
And because we really believe that what goes on at church should be going on at home, and it should be going on out when you're out. It's not all about we come in and put this church face on. That's hypocritical, and hypocrisy breeds confusion. Confusion will breed and brings along division. And when division happens, that's why you got so many pastors' kids running around here like they ain't never heard of Jesus. And they talk about how Jesus is fake. It's because what they're seeing at church. And listen, I'm telling you, you Christian parents, you're at church being one way and you're at home being another way. The kids get confused. That's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And when they get confused, God is not the author of confusion. And then all of a sudden they start rebelling against you. They'll rebel against the word of God because they heard it, but they never seen it.
At home.
So it's important that not only like in our marriage, that when Kai and I are arguing or have a disagreement or where we're loving on each other, we do these things where the kids can see it. If I ever step out of line and out of line with God and speak to her wrong, I don't just apologize to her. I have to apologize to my children for disrespecting their mother. And these things, the kids will start learning that. It'll soak in them and keep them going, okay. And we understand we teach grace, but we also teach staying in line with the word of God. So I'm just telling you guys right now, parents, look, it's not enough for you to go to church and then hope that the church will teach your kids how to live. Because it's not like we're doing with school. We're sending our kids to school and going, hey, yeah, they're there to teach them. That's what we pay taxes for. No. You are to train up a child in the way that they should go. It's up to us as parents. And I can keep going, but I just wanted to share that with you, at least that aspect of it, because we can't be hypocritical when it comes to the word of God and living a life as a Christian.
Yeah. Well, you guys got any questions? Is there any questions out there? Anything else we want to talk about?
No, Stacy said that she's been 33 years they've been married.
Hi, Stacy.
Yeah.
Stacy Word.
Stacy Word. So, and it's when her last name's Word.
Word.
Yeah, she's in the Word. So, hey, you guys, look, we enjoyed being with you guys today. We'll probably be here again next Monday, but we'll be at home, hopefully. And hopefully you guys have been blessed by what we said. We said a lot. We drank coffee really fast today, so we did a lot of mumbling.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so do you have anything else to say, honey?
Nope.
You don't have nothing to say? Me either. For those of you that are part of the church, don't forget tomorrow night we're having family night. It will not be broadcasted. So I'm sorry if you are a person that are still by faith watching and you're still staying at home. If you do want to come out, because it's very important, we do have a physician that will be here tomorrow that will be able to answer some questions about coronavirus. We have some police officers here that will be able to talk to you about how they feel and how you feel. You can ask any questions, but this is a family conversation, and family matters, family business is within family, so we're not going to broadcast it. If that's you and you want to come out, listen, come out and we will make sure that you can sit in a corner 15, 20 feet away from somebody with a mask on and some hand sanitizer in your hand, okay? No, but that's if you have questions, or this is, well, you won't be there to hear it. Just try to get here, you guys. Tuesday, 7 p.m.,
tomorrow, yeah.
Which is tomorrow. Family meeting. That's the family, Building Christian Fellowship family, so that we can love on each other, answer your questions, and we can cancel out this fear.
Yeah, no, you don't have to register, Thailand.
Nope, you just come on in, Tai, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Love you. God bless you. And thanks for joining us with us. Coffee Date Monday.
Take care.
Bye, y'all.